everybody. It's time for the podcast.
Hello.
It's time for the podcast here on Rage Select. You know who we are. I need to, you know what, Jason? I need to have somebody on next week and give you a break. You've done like, what, 4 of these in a row?
Yeah.
now?
I'm done.
Is that it?
I'm done.
You're handing in your podcast resignation?
Throwing down the mic.
Don't you? You know, I was watching. I'm watching comedy specials, right? I've been listening to some comedy stuff on Spotify. and watching comedy specials, and I don't know if it's just me and the fact that I never used to think like this, but every time somebody drops the microphone now, I'm horrified. All I can imagine is my own microphone.
That's expensive.
Yeah, like I would run out, like I'd do some grip run out on like trying to catch. You know, I was watching Louis C.K. do it. There was one where he just drops the mic. He was talking to this Giganthropus thing, and he just fucking throws the mic down. I was like, not the mic! Oh god. So how's your week been, Jason? It's not even been a full week since we last did this, but
God, I know.
Have anything happened to you this weekend?
No.
I'm
trying to think of anything worthwhile, and just had speaking. Okay, I'll go ahead and tell.
You tell the story?
The story of horror.
Okay.
Of just a repeated awfulness. So we were. Our friend Randy, one of my great friends, he had his birthday party over at his place.
Yeah.
I was going to go. You went.
I did.
Grant went.
Everybody
went.
Yeah.
Except me.
Except for Jason Allison.
Yeah. We were going to go, and I'm at the house, and I went outside or something, and Allison had left. So we have, let me back up. We have 3 dogs.
Yeah.
Right? Little terrier, and then 2 big boxers.
Yep.
I went outside, and Allison had left a bag of French roast coffee grounds in her purse. And I was only outside for 3 minutes. I come back in, and that shit is all over the living room.
That's all it takes, man. Some dogs, man, they're ninjas just waiting for you to leave the room.
Yeah, they're just go, go, go.
Yeah.
Scramble.
Yeah.
So that it's all over the place, and I clean it up, and Allison's like, "Oh, what happened? Oh, they got into my coffee, you motherfuckers!" And blah, she's all mad, and she's like, "Is that poisonous?" I'm like, "No, no, it's fine, it's fine." So she goes to the store, and as soon as she leaves, I'm pulling up the laptop, "Is coffee poison to dogs?" Because I'm thinking, I'm pretty damn sure it is. And sure enough, they're like,
you go to iscoffeepoisontodogs.com, and it's just one of those sites that just says yes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just there's stuff everywhere, and I'm like, okay, I'm cleaning this up, and I look it up, and I'm just like, oh, okay, crap. And it's like, oh yeah, well, coffee grounds are bad. You need to make them throw up. But if they haven't been brewed yet, then it's really bad.
Oh,
because that contains more caffeine, and you got to watch them, and you got to take them.
ODing on caffeine, essentially.
Basically, yeah. I mean, it affects their systems differently, and it's a bad scene, man. It's like when they eat chocolate, and so I'm like, okay. So I call a 24-hour vet clinic near my house, and they're like, yeah, bring the dogs in, and we'll make them throw up. And I hung up the phone. I was like, okay, I'll be there in a minute. And I hung up, and I thought, well, I can make them throw up. And I was like, how do I make them throw up?
So I went and I got
I'm imagining my giant dog,
right,
which could tear my arm off.
Sure.
And I knew it was him.
Yeah.
I knew it was the boys. I knew it was the terrier and the boxer, the big one. I'm picturing just put my fingers down his throat and just gag him. And it's like, what's the gag reflex like on a dog?
Have you ever done that? Have you ever tried
rip my arm off?
You ever tried putting something into a dog's mouth and they don't want it in their mouth?
Yeah.
It's a horrifying experience.
Exactly.
I was just thinking that you're like, I need to get my dogs to throw up, and you're looking around, and then the light bulb comes on over your head, and you go into the kitchen and grab the bottle of Jägermeister. And you're like, come here! You're pouring shots for your dogs. Woo! You're gonna drink this whole thing, God damn it!
Yeah. And then you're going to have this whole pack of cigarettes. But then I remembered this Louis C.K. bit.
Yeah.
Where he's punching his dog in the face after the dog ate chocolate and trying to make the dog drink this hydrogen peroxide. I was like, we've got hydrogen peroxide.
Yeah.
I can do that. So I went and got hydrogen peroxide. And Allison comes home, and I'm in the backyard with the big guy in a headlock, pouring hydrogen peroxide down his throat, and he's just taking it. He's like, God, this sucks. I'll drink it. Okay, whatever you want, Dad.
That's what I love about dogs. Sometimes, is the fact that you could, in some cases, dump hydrogen peroxide down a dog and they just be like, "Oh, this is terrible. I don't know why you're doing this, but you're the guy."
Yeah, yeah. And Allison walks in. She sees it. She's like, "What the fuck?" And I'm just like, "So coffee's very poisonous. Do we need to take him to the vet?" I tell her the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm pouring it down his gullet, and he's just like, "Okay." He's a big dumb guy. Oh, all right. And then he starts walking around, and he starts like, oh, shit. And he's walking around like, oh. And he clearly doesn't feel well. And
Right.
I've got this giant backyard, right?
Yeah.
And so we're out there. It's dark. Got a flashlight, following this dog around to make sure he throws up.
Uh-huh.
And he's walking around, and finally he does. And he ate so much of that damned coffee. And he finds it, and and I'm like, okay, take him inside, get the little one.
Right.
And so I go out there and I bury it
Yeah.
because the dogs, they're going to go out there and go, "Hey, this smells like vomit and coffee. Let's eat it."
Yeah, you were here yesterday when my dog threw up, and it's like he's retching up this bile, right? He spends all this time getting it up, and then as soon as it's on the ground, he's like, "I need to get rid of this. I got to clean it out."
Yeah. And so I shoveled some dirt over it, and then we're doing the little guy, the terrier. Mm-hmm. He is not having that shit.
Yeah.
He's just not having it. He's like, "No, fuck, no."
Fucking terriers, man.
And Allison's just like pouring a little. And I'm like, "No, more. More." He's like, "Fuck, let me go." He's
Yeah.
just being a bastard.
Sure.
And that's what we call him, the little bastard.
But he's small enough that you could probably, he's not going to worm his way out of your...
It was surprisingly difficult.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. You would have thought that the giant, 65-pound dog or
Right.
whatever, however big he is. I don't know. He's a big dog.
Yeah.
I think he's like 60, 65 pounds. You'd think he would be the difficult one. But no, it's that little wiry bastard. And then finally he throws up. I didn't really see any coffee in there at all. And I was
Right.
just like,
Sorry,
sorry,
man.
It's like, you got to admit, you're a pretty big suspect for this.
Sure.
I keep
Yeah.
catching you getting into anything, or anything at all. It's like you ate Allison's pedicure kit the other day. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And so then we all take him we take all three of them to the vet the next morning.
Yeah.
Which is just a special hell.
Sure.
And this was, just for unrelated things. We
You
tell them.
put them in a crate in the car, or you just put them all in the car?
Just put them in the car. It's fine. Yeah. And, we put them all in the car, and we go to the vet, and it's like, okay, this one needs shots, this one needs nails trimmed, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then I find a tumor
Ah,
on Redfern.
man.
So, yeah, he's got a cancerous tumor. It's malignant. It's on his neck. It's a real drag. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and he's like, yeah, fuck that. That's going to get expensive, and then the dog's going to die anyway. I'm like, fuck you, man.
Yeah, it's my dog.
Yeah.
It's my fucking dog.
He's like, all right.
I'll sell my car. Is it a cat person? Does that person have cats?
No. He had a bad experience, but with a goat. With a pet goat. Yeah.
What?
And he just spent all this money getting this goat taken care of,
Uh-huh.
and then the goat died anyway. And so he's just like,
Whoa.
fuck it.
Why would
Which
you
I get.
Why would you have a goat as a pet? Why not
Yeah.
just get a dog? They're so much better. Well, do you feel that after the experience of pouring this hydrogen peroxide down these 65-pound animals that you're now ready to be a father? Is that
Absolutely not.
no? Okay.
No.
Well, I got to tell you
no.
that Randy's party was pretty awesome. I'm not trying to rub it in your face or anything, but I had the story about that was the first time I'd ever had what was it? Easy Tiger.
Oh, yeah. Easy Tiger's great.
Because last year at RTX, I think the first day when we did our thing,
Yeah.
I went and ate, and then I came back, and we were having this thing at Easy Tiger, and I'd always
Yeah.
known it to be a bar, right?
Yeah.
And so I went, I ate, and then we went to this thing. We're doing a little mixer thing, and Kayla was there, and she was like, "Yeah, I got the corned beef on rye, it's so good." And I was just like, "What the fuck?" I mean, I've had good corned beef on rye, but I mean, there's some
Yeah.
limits. Somebody tells you, right? They're like, "We got to go to this bar. They've got awesome sandwiches." I'm like, what do they got? And it's like, well, they have lunch meats on bread. And you're just like, you're fucking weirdo, man.
Yeah.
Carl Buttig on fucking Wonder Bread. I've had sandwiches at a bar before, but no, this place is the like a 1/4-inch cut corned beef that they make there on bread that they make themselves. It's fucking phenomenal. So I think I gave myself a food hangover because then somebody else apparently had come there because Randy went and he bought all this stuff, and so it was like prosciutto and all this bread and all this awesome stuff. These little riblets, like little mini pieces of ribs.
Yeah.
So it's just like bite size. You just take it and they were so good. And then apparently somebody who came to the party, I don't know who it was, like called Randy and they were like, "Hey, I'm coming back into town for your party tonight. I'm driving through Lockhart. Which one do you want?"
Oh, hell.
So somebody brought like 5 pounds of like Kreutz or something, just straight brisket with them as well. It was rough. So, it was one of those things where he had the table, right? And I don't know how good your food impulse is. I suspect it might be as bad as mine.
Probably.
But like you go to this party, right? And I had ate lunch that day, but I went to this party at like 9:00, right? And I was like, "Ooh, here's a spread, right?"
Man, if it's good, I will eat until I hear something tear.
Yeah, I was sitting there make myself a sandwich and got some of this macaroni that was really good and a few of these little riblets. I was like, "Hey, good, great." So I ate all this. But the problem was we were all hanging out on the back porch, and that when you would go inside to get another beer, you would go inside to go to the bathroom, whatever, you would always walk by this table that was full of
grab a little bit
meat. It was just so much meat on this table, and like it was pretty badass. But I deserved that because I got, before we get started onto the news, I got time for this one more thing. So on Friday, Jason, I ruined somebody's day.
Awesome.
I ruined it hard.
Did they deserve it?
No.
Oh.
Well, okay. Okay. This wasn't like a bad person who did something.
Can you say who it is?
Yes, I'm going to tell you the story exactly.
Okay.
So on Friday, I woke up, I posted the videos for the day.
Yeah.
I walked downstairs, and I picked up the 82 individually wrapped Loco Steve T-shirts and went, it's time to do this. Put them in the car and went to the post office. And I walked into the post office about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Nobody there.
Yeah.
Nobody in line. I was like, whew, great. Walked up to the counter, this guy there, and I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm sorry, but I have 82 individual T-shirts that need to be posted and mailed. And each one, they were all in one bag. They all had an address and everything on them. But like, there's no way for, I tried to figure out how to do it from home. I'm not that smart to jump through the hoops, whatever. I don't have a scale.
Yeah.
So I went to the post office and I started doing this, and the guy was like, "Okay." And he's like, "Well, you've got 20 some odd internationals. Have you filled out customs forms for them?" And I was like, obviously not.
Customs?
Right.
What?
But you have to. If you're shipping internationally, you got to fill out a customs form for what's in it. So I had to put 24 individual handwritten custom forms of my name and address and what was in this box and where it was going. So I'm standing there, and he's just doing it, right? And as I'm standing there, like, people are coming in, people are leaving, big lines are forming, big lines are leaving. And we got about 6 shy from the domestic shipping, and the manager of the post office came up to me and was like, "You can't mail any more of these today. Like, you've got too much mail. You can't do any more mail today."
Is that even... Can they even do that?
I wouldn't think so.
I think you need to file a complaint.
I wouldn't think so.
You just got right up in his face and just been like, because you were mailing the Loco Steve shirts, right? Just been like, "Ding dong honky, it's your job."
Well, this was actually a larger African American man, so that probably would have been a really shitty idea for me to do. But
do I look like a honky? He's like, "That's just a thing we say. I'll go now."
That's what the shirt said. No. It's the here. Let me open one. Okay, never mind. But I felt bad because I've been on the other side of that counter before, where somebody comes in with a thing that's going to fuck up your whole day, right? Mm-hmm. Like the guy that had been doing it, he was like, "I may have to pass this off to somebody else because you came in 30 minutes before I was supposed to go to lunch, and we've been doing this for 90 minutes."
Yeah,
and I was like, "Well, I've been on the other side. That's shitty.
Sure,
whatever."
Yeah.
So when the manager came out, I didn't rankle at it until later when I started thinking about it. Because he was like, "Well, we could set you up with like a time to come in and we can have somebody do this." But he didn't give me a phone number. He didn't give me a card. He didn't offer to set up a time.
Yeah.
And there was like this huge line of people because it was 3:30. It was the end of the day. Rush was starting. But there was a bunch of windows open. It's not like as soon as I leave that fucking this whole line's going to go away because this guy's just going to hold up a scanner across the entire post office and take care of it all in one go. So I finished up the domestics and then I came back. But while I was doing this, I had a wonderful, wonderful insight into how glad I am not to work in a retail general public space anymore.
Okay.
All right. So I'm sitting here. when like I'm filling out custom forms, this guy is mailing the packages. We got our system going. Like I like this guy too that mailed all the packages because like he didn't try to be my friend.
Yeah.
But he wasn't like DMV surly either. It was just like I'm doing my job and I don't really feel the need to talk to you.
Sure.
So this younger woman, say mid to late 20s, right, comes in and she goes around the line and she stands like one thing over from the guy where he's got all these white envelopes just stacked up. He's mailing. He's obviously doing something. And she stands there and she's like, Sir.
To you?
Sir. She's talking to the guy, the guy that's helping me. And she wasn't doing it that quickly because she would do it and then she would wait for a few minutes and then she would do it again. And the tone of her sirs became increasingly petulant. As, it was like, sir, and then she'd be, sir. And finally, he turns to her and he goes, can I help you? And she goes, not with that attitude, you can't. And he was like, what do you need? And she was like, I need for you to show me some respect.
What?
And he just goes, well, then I think you need to talk to somebody else. And then she said, yeah. I was like, right on, dude. This fucking federal employees, right? Like, they don't give a shit. And then she was like, well, I was going to get an application, but I'm not going to stand in that line.
What?
You guys, like, said something like, you guys, could have used help here, but not anymore. It's, and then just, like, stormed off, right? And I stood there for a second. My brain was doing the math on it, and I was like, one, are you telling me that you want to work for the United States Post Office and you can't take it when somebody talks to you in a condescending tone? Because that's I've been watching people come up and mail packages, and that's all people do at the post office, right? And two, let me ask you, if this isn't like I need to get some lunch meat for my friend's party, right? You're looking to get a job.
Right.
Ostensibly
it's a long-term investment.
To pay your rent or buy food or support your family or whatever, and you can't wait in the post office line for 15 minutes to get a fucking application? So anyway, it filled me with it was the only time that the dude that was helping me actually like had a conversation with me, because he was just like, people, man. And I was like, I know. He's like, she can't see all this. And I'm like, I worked retail for a long time, and yep, I
she's
feel
just sitting there while he's working.
Yeah,
like
yeah, like he's working. I've got these 2 huge boxes. He's got all the Loco Steve shirts stacked up, and he's putting one on. He's typing in the thing. He's putting a sticker on it. I'm filling out customs forms and making another stack over here. Like the two of us were obviously engaged in some big thing, as opposed to the people walking up with one envelope going,
right,
I need to mail this. I need to mail this. So. Then on Monday, I went back to the post office. I mailed all the international shirts. And the only part of that story that's interesting is that the guy who helped me, apparently they will hire people for the post office that don't know how to type. It was like a 55-year-old man who was like tapping. And I was just like...
Hunt and peck.
Whew. So,
yeah. Man, that's whenever I'm in a situation like that, like at the grocery store and somebody's giving the clerk like a hard time, or the cashier or whatever, and they're just like holding up the line. That's what really pisses me off.
Right.
It's like, you're bickering over this 30 cents. How much is it? Here's 30 cents. You stupid mewling quim. Shut your fucking mouth.
Yeah, I had thought that for a moment there, I had thought about mouthing off to the woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem was that I was in the middle of the end of getting these fucking 80 shirts that Peter and I had stuffed the night before, and I bought a label printer for getting out, and I was like, I don't want to give them some kind of excuse. I don't want to give them any excuse to have to stop doing this terrible thing that I'm doing to them. Like, well, you need to leave.
Momentum.
Right. So, yeah, the post office, no faith in humanity. Actually, it just made me glad. Every so often I have whimsical fantasies about going back to having a retail job and not running Rage Select anymore. Mm-hmm. Because I got to tell you, it's nice when you have a job and somebody tells you what to do. And it's hard to be the person who has to tell everybody else what to do.
Sure.
And then, like, just seeing that, I was like, oh, yeah. It was like 40 hours a week of that one bitch over and over and over again. I'm not excited. But with that, let's go ahead and jump directly into the news. We're recording this podcast a little early this week, so I don't have as much news, but I think I managed to find a fair amount. Starting off with a fairly interesting story, the March NPD numbers came out, and the PS4 was at the top of all consoles sold. More PS4 sold than any other console in March.
Surprise.
Yep. With Titanfall as the number one piece of software sold.
Which is interesting since PS4 does not have Titanfall.
Yeah. Well, it looks like, I mean, according to the numbers that we're seeing here, it looks like the Xbox One so far has shipped 5 million units, and then Sony says that the PlayStation 4 has shipped 7 million units. So you know what? Like, there's been some talk out there about the difference in the two. That why is the Xbox One such a failure? It's 5 million units. I mean, they're behind.
Yeah.
But this is what it is. It's amazing how much the parallels of how much this smacks of when you remember the PS3 launch.
Yeah.
Sales numbers were abysmal.
It was flipped.
And everybody was just like, Sony's going out of business.
That's it.
That's all for Sony. Sony's dead,
Yeah.
And this is now, we're seeing, that there are people buying Xbox Ones. I mean, 5 million Xbox Ones. How many total Wii U's have been sold?
Probably like 60, 70,
So,
something like that.
yeah. I think I read an article, 82, right? That
Pretty
was the number.
sure. It was something like that.
But Titanfall was the top-selling game of March, with the second being Infamous Second Son.
Yeah.
And then South Park Stick of Truth, as is the craziness. Call of Duty Ghosts at number 4. I don't know if back when I used to watch the MPD numbers harder, Jason, I used to watch them all the time.
Yeah.
It is amazing how long Call of Duty stays in the top 10 games sold like 8 months after it's out.
Oh, I totally believe it. That's why we are cursed with this forever.
Oh, Call of Duty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere.
But when I look at
they
this...
could just keep shoveling the horse shit down our throats.
Yeah.
Down our collective gullets, and we will just eat it right up.
What I want is the sales numbers on that Snoop Dogg voice pack that we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Like if Call of Duty Ghost the number 4 is still number 4. I mean, because you look at you remember how well GTA 5 sold, right? Yeah, GTA 5 is not on this list anywhere.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like Call of Duty has that weird staying power where it just sticks around. But I'd be interested to know how much money they make off of that $3 Snoop Dogg voice pack.
Of the little DLCs and stuff like that. I'm kind of curious.
Packs,
Well, number 10 on the list is Minecraft, and I updated my Minecraft the other day and was looking at the stuff. Minecraft's got a lot of little $1, $2, $5 things, add-ons, texture packs,
right?
Skin packs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I'm curious as to what kind of revenue those are bringing in. Just on the Xbox.
I think that I think that people are, at least from my experience, I'm not even talking people. I'll talk me, right?
Yeah,
I'm much more these days friendly. I feel much better about buying Minecraft for $20, and then I don't know, there's a Boba Fett skin that I want. I'll pay $1 for that.
Yeah,
than I am with free to play. Free to play game where to unlock more characters you have to spend $3 or $4 per character type of thing. I'd much rather make that initial investment and then have just some cosmetic stuff.
Oh yeah, sure.
Than to get it for free and then be expected to dump kind of unlimited money into it.
Exactly. Well, have you heard about Disney Infinity?
I heard that they announced some Marvel thing last week.
Oh
right?
they got Marvel characters, whatever. But they're implementing from. I haven't looked into this. It might even be completely false.
Okay.
But they're implementing lightsaber. So you can get a lightsaber.
Uh-huh. I thought there was a lightsaber in Disney Infinity.
But you have to spend $500.
What?
That's only people who have spent $500 are able to get the lightsaber in Disney Infinity.
Let's see. According to Wood, unlocking the lightsaber means players have spent at least $500 on Disney Infinity figurines. Oh, right.
The figurines.
Okay, I think I know what this is because a friend of mine is big into Disney Infinity. He loaned us all the stuff when we did the the site, right? And I think that what you have to do is you have to buy all of the characters.
Okay, right.
And so that probably adds up because those characters are $12 a pop, man.
Yeah.
They're not cheap.
Yeah. Or you can go get Star Wars: The Old Republic, for however much that is, and you can start with a lightsaber.
I think you can actually download the client for Star Wars: Old Republic for free, and then you just pay a monthly fee, or free to play.
So if you want a lightsaber, this is not the way to do it.
Yeah.
Although hitting little Disney characters with a lightsaber, I can see the appeal.
Disney Infinity is when we looked at it's a pretty smart. It's a pretty. I mean, they just ripped off Skylanders essentially.
Yeah, totally.
But the fact that they ripped off Skylanders with all these name brand Disney properties, pretty fucking smart.
Oh yeah.
They also have the toy box mode where you can go in and just make your own levels and stuff. But the other thing that I find really interesting about this March MPD numbers is look what's right behind Call of Duty Ghosts.
Dark Souls 2.
What the fuck? Dark
What
Souls
do you
2,
know?
number 5. Good on you guys.
Hey.
Now I know that some people on this website are probably slitting their own throats because Metal Gear Ground Zeroes is directly after that at number 6. But you know what? I don't know. I'm just happy that Dark Souls. I'm happy that Dark Souls. Well, I don't know.
Seeing some measure of success.
I don't know if I'm happy that it's now a kind of a mainstream thing.
Oh, you hipster.
I may have been happier when it was just.
I know people rankle when we throw that word around. What does hipster even mean anyway?
Right, yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
Right.
That's what it means. That at its core is what it means. I'm unhappy that it's mainstream.
Yeah.
Eat a dick.
Well, all right. Let's move on here to, and I'm gonna talk a little bit while Jason gets to watch this. There was a trailer that came out for Dragon Age Inquisition and a release date. Dragon Age Inquisition is the third Dragon Age, right?
Yes.
Right. And yeah, I'm pretty sure. I know I get my facts wrong from time to time, but I'm pretty goddamn sure that this is the next Dragon Age game. But I'm going to skip forward a little bit here. And it's got a release date in October.
Okay.
And I got to tell you, I haven't been following this like extra super close, right? I've looked at some of the screenshots that have come out. There was that trailer at E3 last year that I thought was kind of meh, right?
Kind of meh.
It was
fucking terrible.
It was okay. Well, I'm trying to, trying to be, man of the people here. Vox Populi, whatever.
This looks cool, though.
This looks really cool.
Yeah.
Like this new trailer, finally, outside of the screenshots and everything, I think this trailer looks really fun. You got a bunch of the characters. I've forgotten, actually, kind of the main thrust of Dragon Age 2. It was in the city, and there was kind of the mages versus the Inquisitors, or not Inquisitors, they were like the religious order type of thing. And you were kind of trying to keep your family safe and stuff like that. But like all this that I'm seeing in this trailer, this looks cool.
Yeah.
This looks really cool.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I mean, I have not followed. I played a reasonable amount of Dragon Age 1.
Yeah.
A little bit of Dragon Age 2.
Yeah.
But I don't really know.
I've been thinking
what
about
the hell's going on.
I've been thinking about going back and replaying all of Dragon Age 1,
Okay.
maybe on easy, because it's always kicked my ass. Like I'm just
Oh, really?
I didn't understand how the mechanics work or whatever, but I never beat it. I never even got. I always get to the same place and then I end up getting killed.
Yeah.
But one of the things, and I don't know if you noticed this about this trailer that I find kind of interesting, is that, it's got all this BioWare cinematic stuff, but when you look at the actual gameplay sections, it's always like, and I don't know if this is just what they're doing for the capture, but it's always it's one character, like in the foreground, kind of like third-person action style.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that means that they're going to stick with the Dragon Age 2 more kind of action-based combat, or
Right.
because I thought, I don't really know what this may be something for people to chime in the comments and say, but like my impression when Dragon Age 2 came out was that people far more preferred the kind of Baldur's Gate style Dragon Age 1 more heavy RPG
Right.
type of stuff than they did this kind of character action stuff that we're seeing in this trailer.
Yeah.
That was in Dragon Age 2.
I'll give it a shot. Looks interesting.
Looks good, though.
I don't really have any expectations.
For the first time, I'm excited about it since it was announced that this stuff looks better, and
That announcement trailer. Oh, that was embarrassing.
plus, this is also going to be one of those. Have we had a game since the Doctors left BioWare? Or is this going to be the first one? Because they were there for Mass Effect 3, and there hasn't been a BioWare game since Mass Effect 3, right?
Star Wars.
Star Wars was before Mass Effect 3.
Was it?
Star Wars:
Okay.
The Old Republic was December 2011, and then Mass Effect 3 was 2000.
Okay, yeah.
Well,
it was 2012.
Was it 2013? No, it was 2012, right?
Yeah, it's 2012. Pretty sure.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to look that up just to.
Of course you are.
Well, let's see.
See, that's the difference. I'm usually just like, whatever, move on.
Well,
don't care.
yeah, but you know what, Jason? Is nobody expects you to know anything, but when I say the wrong thing, they're
people
just
are
like,
all up your ass.
"Fuck you, Jeff Jesus." You
don't know anything.
Okay, yep, 2012, March 2012 for Mass Effect, and December 2011 for
Okay.
Star Wars: The Old Republic. Ha! My memory works. So I don't know. This will also be interesting to see. Well, we got this up here. We can take a look at BioWare. So this is a bunch of add-ons. So no, we haven't had one since Mass Effect 3.
After Dragon Age Inquisition, it's this untitled Star Wars game.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What is even EA and Disney team up for new Star Wars game?
Well, I knew that. I just didn't know BioWare was part of that.
But see, they've so kind of messed up BioWare. Remember they did the BioWare Victory, and then they were splitting off into different. It's kind of like Rockstar at this point. Like, there's like 6 different studios with Rockstar on it.
Right.
I don't even know how BioWare. I think they destroyed. I think they dissolved BioWare Victory, and put those people into other stuff. So I don't know. It's so hard to keep track of the internal studios in EA because they make them and dissolve them, and they make them and dissolve them. Like the.
Yeah, you know that team that made this game? Well, they're in IT now.
Yeah.
Slinging cable.
Like when Need for Speed Rivals, was that the latest one?
Didn't that one get canceled?
No, the one that came out for the PS4 and the Xbox One.
Oh, right. I meant the one that we saw at E3. Was that the one for the...
Yeah, that was the same one.
Some Need for Speed game got put on hold recently, right?
Oh, I think you're thinking of Drive Club.
Oh, yeah. That's what it is.
But that was made by some ex-DICE people. EA, it was like Ghost Studios or something like that.
Yeah.
Which I think they then dissolved after the game was released.
Yeah.
Like, that's a bad precedent that we see out there of like, create a new studio, spend 2 years working on a game, publish that game, you're all fired.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yep.
And, well, you know what? In other news, could potentially be good or bad, Sony Pictures has registered Bioshock-movie.com, Bioshock-movie.net, and Bio-shock.net, even though the fuck spells Bioshock like that? We all just make it one word, right? What's the fucking hyphens there, guys?
They're just covering their bases so that nobody squats on it.
Yeah, so... this is a continuing saga of, are they making a Bioshock movie? Are they not making it? Because they had ideas. It was Gore Verbinski, and then they canned it, and then there was a report in March from IGN saying that Courtney Draper, who was the voice of Elizabeth, was badgering Ken Levine to be in the movie.
That's adorable.
Yeah, so I don't know. This is okay. So first of all, let's just say at this point, you're making a Bioshock movie, right? You make a Bioshock Infinite movie, don't you?
No,
because that's what people know. That's what's in the zeitgeist right now. You go all the way back to Rapture.
Yeah, I think so.
And do you think that you know what? People ask us a lot about whether movies could work or not. And I'm going to be pretty cavalier with Bioshock here, you guys. So it's a 5-year-old game. Please don't complain. But I think that if you were to make a movie that followed the original Bioshock, you could do some interesting, like that would be the sort of thing where when you look at the arc of Bioshocking, you kind of have that Kaiser Soze moment with the would you kindly reveal and who the main character is.
Yeah.
Where you could have that character, you could even make them a character. The only problem, I guess, is you would probably need to give them some kind of sidekick, right? Because you can't.
Yeah, you got to have somebody to interact with.
You can't have one character wandering through Rapture by themselves.
Yeah.
So there'd have to be like a love interest of some sort.
Yeah.
Probably they'd make it a woman that the guys hang out with.
Maybe somebody who's slowly going insane.
Oh, but then what would you have? But then what would happen is like
who's with one of the crazy slicers or whatever. Splicers. That's what I meant.
Is that they would reveal the would you kindly thing, and then he'd murder Andrew Ryan. And then through the power of love, he'd break his mental programming and go after Frank Fontaine, and then they would fist fight on top of Rapture, and then the movie's over.
That sounds better than the ending of the game.
Yeah. I guess the only question is, how do you put the big daddies in? You could actually lift from the Bioshock 2 plot and have, your main character going there to rescue a little sister, because you could work the big daddy stuff in there. I don't know. I think there's enough there that you could probably...
I think you could totally make a movie out of it. They're just going to have to switch it up a bit.
Yeah.
They're going to have to take some liberties. It can't be and shouldn't be just beat for beat the game.
I want to see a guy. I want to see just an actor. I want to see fucking Joseph Gordon-Levitt as the guy. I want to see just a regular-sized dude fighting a big daddy on the silver screen with Avengers-style special effects of just fucking that would be intense because those were
with bees coming out of his hands.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you think this will ever get made? Do you think this is more of a chance than anything else, or
I think it's got a chance. I mean, let's say that BioShock was just an original script and not already a successful game.
Yeah.
There's no way it would ever get made.
Right.
But since it's a game, well, let me put it this way. They just announced that there's going to be a movie based on Peeps, the marshmallow Easter candy.
candy?
Yep. They're going to make a Peeps movie.
Like a CGI kids movie where the
Yeah.
Peeps go on an adventure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Swear to God, name.
Why not make a BioShock movie?
Brand recognition in Hollywood has become a weird fucking thing.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what?
Well, they're bankrupt. They're just a bunch of frightened cowards, idiot cowards.
I would think that between stuff like the Avengers, the relative success of the new Star Trek movies, Star Wars coming out, if you were going to make one game franchise into a movie, I know they've been kicking around Halo for years, but that seems like a no-brainer, right?
They keep trying, but it's money. It's money, and this is going to be expensive too.
But I don't even think I mean, okay, you're going to have some stuff that's up on a ship that's going to have to be sets and stuff like that. But you've already got a whole fan base that is really familiar with building, like the cars, the armor, all this stuff. You're going to have to do some CG work for the Covenant, right? But then you can go to fucking Southern California and put a ring in the background of the desert out there and fucking drive Jeeps around and shoot stuff.
That's expensive.
But it's not as expensive as, but I think that
As expensive as what? 500 Days of Summer?
Star Wars, I don't know, Star Trek.
I bet you it would cost marginally less than Star Wars.
Look, man, you just told me they're making a fucking movie about Peeps. All right.
Yeah.
If you're looking for brand recognition that is in popular culture that's going to get you a return on investment, fucking Halo.
Oh yeah. No, I agree, but there's the fear of video game adaptations.
I don't even think it's a thing.
It is a thing.
No,
it's a total thing.
I know it's a thing, but I think that Halo has even already demonstrated with Forward Unto Dawn and with a few of the other, like all of the commercials that they did with the live action stuff, that people dig the shit out of it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You already have a built-in focus group that goes, people love this shit.
Absolutely.
So I don't understand why they don't just fucking go ahead and make that shit.
Because the accountants are in charge.
Fucking accountants. All right. Well, I can't do anything about that. Another thing that I can't do anything about is apparently there's been like the people are leaving Naughty Dog.
What's happening?
I don't know what's going on over at Naughty Dog, but this week we had a report that Nate Wells, who was the artist who was hired on in 2012 and worked, primarily on The Last of Us, left to go to Giant Sparrow, which is the people who made Unfinished Swan. We never played that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, but I do know what you're talking about.
It's the one where you throw the paint around to figure out the environment.
Yeah.
But, that's 3 now. You've got game director Justin Richmond, who left to go to League of Legends, or to Riot, and then you got Amy Hennig, who left to go to Visceral. And I'm just like, what the fuck's going on over there at Naughty Dog, man?
Yeah. Okay, what does it say there? The circumstances that surrounded Hennig's departure remain unclear, and the studio has vehemently denied a report that The Last of Us directors Bruce Stanley and Neil Druckmann were, quote-unquote, involved in what transpired. So something went down.
Yeah, something happened. We don't know what.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wonder if this is going to. It's hard to tell because in the gaming world we've got these rock star names like Carmack and Levine and some of the big people who make this stuff. Hideo Kojima and Koji Inafune and stuff like that. Like we've got people who their names because their games, but what we don't know is how much of that is them and how much of that are people like Amy Hennig and this Nate Wells, people who are behind the scenes helping to make the dream a reality. Like,
well, it's very much a collaborative effort. I mean, it's like in the movies. It's rarely, purely the product of one person.
Right.
You just can't do it
unless it's Suda 51 because nobody else is taking responsibility for that bullshit.
Right. Everyone else in the art department and the writing, they're just like anonymous.
Yeah. Like you go to the end credits, it's directed by Suda 51, and then everyone else is Alan Smithy, just all the way down. Like, dude, I don't want to be involved with that. What was it called? Gigolo mode in Killer is Dead.
Yes.
Oh man. All right. But speaking of things that we are not that kind of behind the scenes, underhanded weirdness. So King has apparently, of Candy Crush Saga fame, has apparently settled their trademark disputes with Stoic for Saga, with the Banner Saga.
Sure.
But that's not the most interesting thing about this. The most interesting thing about this is, you remember the guy who made Candy, the other Candy game?
Yeah, the one that made it first.
Yep.
Yeah. They had him killed.
No. What happened was, Run Some Apps is the guy's company. What was it called? It was called Candy. God,
It was like Candy Swipe or something.
Candy
like that?
Swipe, right? He is okay. Check this out. I'll show you this. This is an easier way to show this. He has withdrawn his what do you call it?
Lawsuit?
No.
His claim?
You resisting his. He was resisting their trademark for Candy.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So, if you go to the site that used to have all this stuff, where he was saying they totally ripped me off.
Yeah.
Here's the evidence. Here's the proof. Here's all the stuff. It's been replaced by this page that says, I am happy to announce that I have amicably resolved my dispute with King over my Candy Swipe trademark, and I am withdrawing my opposition to their mark, and they are withdrawing their counterclaim against mine. I have learned that they picked the Candy Crush name before I released my game, and that they were never trying to take my game away. Both our games can continue to coexist without confusing players.
Somebody got paid.
So, I don't like to be a cynical Simon, but like this webpage before was so fucking vehement from top to bottom and so insistent about how King had ripped him off and how they were an evil bastard corporation that have fucked him and fucked him and fucked him and fucked him, and he's just the little guy. And there's really only one thing you could draw from this.
They wrote him a big check.
They wrote this motherfucker a big old check, and they were like, shut the fuck up. We're trademarking Candy. What's it going to take to make you shut the fuck up? And that he told him a number, and that they gave him a check with that number written on it, and that because, I think the other thing is they were, remember they came out with an IPO. And then, as you can see in the story, they came with an IPO in March, a valuation of $7.6 billion on their IPO. And then the value of that dropped 15.5% in that month, which I'm sure was hurt by these allegations that were coming out of, you guys are assholes, essentially.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like what they managed to do was that they dropped anything against Stoic, and then they paid off this other motherfucker, and they're trying to just get this shit the fuck out of the way, make everybody forget their name, go about having their $7.6 billion IPO.
Yeah, they're watching their IPO tank, and they're like, oh, I think I know why this is happening.
Yeah. Why don't you just write these little piss ants some checks, and let's get the fuck out of here. I feel like we should use our contacts here in Austin to contact Stoic and be like, hey, you guys get paid too?
Yeah, right.
Okay, if we'll do the fucking reporters, the Watergate guys,
Woodward and Bernstein.
Yeah, we'll do that. All right, don't say anything if you got a big check from King.
Yeah, blink.
All right,
twice.
All right, we're printing the story.
Breaking news.
Hit submit, Jason.
Yeah. Well, if you check Stoic's website, it's like Banner Saga 2 and 3 announced for all platforms.
That's right.
Like,
fully animated cutscenes.
Yeah, exactly.
Full voice acting.
Right. Actual Vikings.
That's right. Oh, man. So, yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. Well, I know how I feel about this. This is what happens in America when business happens.
Yep.
When you can't bully somebody out of there and they make enough of a stink, you finally write them a check.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. All right, next up, and this is a weird story, but the last two stories are just some little kind of tidbits, but I wanted to include them because they're both really exciting for me. So apparently they're putting out both Silent Hill Origins and Silent Hill Shattered Memories for the PlayStation Vita.
Okay.
I have heard that Silent Hill Origins is a steaming pile of dog vomit that nobody should ever play.
Yeah.
By my friend who's a big Silent Hill person.
I can't even keep all the latter Silent Hill
This
games
is the one
straight. I have no idea.
Her main complaint seemed to be that in Silent Hill Origins, I believe, you play as a soldier that's come back from the war.
Okay.
So when you're fighting monsters, your character actually has some degree of like fighting ability.
Yeah.
And that having that aptitude tends to make it less scary because you're not as helpless. On the other hand, Shattered Memories, I've always wanted to play. And that's the one that came out on the Wii that was like a retelling of the original Silent Hill.
Oh, yeah.
But it would have like they used like the Wiimote to have like you get a phone call.
yeah,
and
right.
It would come through and you didn't have any weaponry. You could only run away. Is that when the monsters came, all you could do was run away from them. But then it also did all these psychological tricks where it would you would cut between you talking to a psychiatrist and playing in the game, like as a flashback type of thing. So the psychiatrist would give you he'd be like, here's a picture of a house and here's some crayons, please color it. And so you would color the house and the family or whatever, right? And then later on in the game you would come across a house and it would be the same color as what you colored in the picture.
Oh, so you could actually choose the color.
Right. They would.
That's neat.
And the whole thing, like they would ask you, the psychologist would ask you questions like, what do you find more scary? And it would be a multiple choice thing.
Yeah.
And the game would alter its...
Puppies?
Right. It would alter itself to try to scare you more with what you've told it about yourself.
Yeah.
And it was cool, and it was on the Wii, and I was meant to go back, but by the time I got a Wii, I'm really not ashamed to say that, like, I was kind of, at that point, had become a little bit more of a graphics horror where, like, you look at some of the earlier Wii games and just go, I don't know.
Well, that's some neat tricks. I'm curious.
So, yeah, I'm curious to see what they do with the Vita. And it also seems like if you're going to take a game and put it on a Vita, a Wii game is fine, right? Because the little bit lower res graphics, they're not as offensive to your brain on a Vita screen as opposed to a 55-inch plasma television.
It depends on how the Wiimote interaction works and how they translated that.
Absolutely. Because I know that there was a lot of your primary interaction with the world from the videos that I saw was through the Wiimote.
Okay.
So, but I'm excited about this. I don't know, if we could, if there was any way to actually show Vita. Oh, well, you could get a Vita TV. No, fucking. Also, speaking of Japanese horror games, this is a story that filled me with elation and
I saw this one.
Destroyed the elation. So apparently there was an announcement that there's going to be a new Fatal Frame game on the Wii U.
Yep.
Holy shit, I cannot think of a better game to put on the Wii U. Because you use the camera. Point the thing at the screen, take pictures with your camera.
Oh, that would be fascinating.
Yeah, use the whole camera obscura type of thing. You play it alone in a dark room. It would be perfect. That would be one of the most perfect things I've ever heard about the Wii U.
Yes.
And I'm not afraid to say that I really want to play that game. Now, this article unfortunately pointed out that the chances of that game actually making it to the United States probably zero.
What?
Because there was another Fatal Frame Mask of the Lunar Eclipse, which was a Wii Fatal Frame game that came out in Japan in 2008. Never came to the U.S.
Oh, that's lame.
There was also a 2012 Wii remake of Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly, my favorite.
Yeah.
Japan, Europe, not United States.
Weird.
So I think that you guys need to get together. Somebody needs to email the, what do they call it? What was the thing?
Obama?
No, not Obama. No, stop putting change.org petitions. Those never do anything. No, there was a group that did that that petitioned Nintendo to do localizations of a bunch of Japanese Wii games. That was where we got The Last Story and Xenosaga, and I think there was a third one, and I can't remember what their name was, but they had a pretty nifty name where they petitioned. So I think that in this particular day and age, like, fuck, man, I want to play another Fatal Frame game. Like, bring that shit over here.
Wii U?
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Sell some fucking Wii U's, Nintendo. Shit, dog. And that's pretty much all the news that we have for today. Now, when this podcast comes out, we're recording this on Wednesday. It's possible there might be a few things that happen between now and when it comes out. But that's all for now. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a break. When we come back, we have a bunch of your emails that we are going to read. And, we'll do that in a minute. All right, everybody, and we are back now with all kinds of your questions. Actually, Jason, I had somebody last week who sent in a question asking when the best time to send questions to us.
Okay, yeah. I don't know the answer to that.
I think that when the podcast comes out is usually the best time. On Sundays.
Really?
We got the email link there. Yeah. In fact, it'd be great if everybody sent them to me on the same day because I a lot of times have to try to look back and see, what I've skipped over. If you want to send in a question, Sunday is a really good day to send in questions.
Email at rageselect.com.
No.
Mail at rageselect.com.
There you go. All right. So let's, without further ado, let's get on with the questions. First one comes in from a good buddy, Carl. Carl says, this may be a naive question, but I was wondering why more developers don't allow direct download and ownership of their games from their respective website. The only one I have seen so far is Bastion. Carl. Jason, you want to take this? This one's pretty easy, right?
I'm not sure, but I would imagine it's because of the they don't have the infrastructure, because that actually requires a lot, because those are large downloads, and so you got to have you got to get a lot of data center space to accommodate something like that.
It's, I think, somewhat. I mean, you're downloading the same thing over and over again because there. I mean, he says the only one he's seen so far is Bastion, but there are quite a few other sites that will allow you to directly download, like betas and early access stuff like that. I think that for my money, the answer that at least seems to ring true for me is its exposure. Right, is having your game on Steam is going to give you way more exposure.
Sure,
because I mean,
it's like having that shelf space that people see.
Right. You think about like if Bastion had come out and it had just been available to download on the company's website. Like,
how would you find it?
How would you find it? I mean, you'd maybe find it through news articles on other websites.
That's a very good point. Yeah,
but
and I wasn't so much thinking about like the space on a server. I was talking about like the load,
the bandwidth load of day one whenever he's downloading your shit.
Right.
And what I've actually seen more often than not with a lot of the stuff that I bought off of websites now is that companies are selling. They essentially are selling you the kind of Humble Bundle key, which you can then go into your browser and you redeem it into Steam, and then you download it on Steam. So you can buy it directly through their website. They have a PayPal link for it. I think I did that with Goat Simulator. I did it with Invisible Ink.
There is a benefit to both the consumer and the producer of any given product of having a centralized place where you can find lots of stuff, because a lot of times you'll find stuff that you didn't know you wanted.
Exactly.
That you weren't specifically looking for.
Exactly. I mean, that's actually been kind of a problem with Steam and some of the. For the last few months or so, they've been putting out a bunch of old games, and they were coming up in the new releases list. Right? Is there would be stuff that were older PC games that have been essentially re-released.
Oh yeah,
and it was just kind of cluttering the place up. I still, we talked about it when we talked about early access a while back. About Steam needs to overhaul the way that they lay their games out on their front page.
Sure.
Because right now it's just a kind of a big list and it's kind of a clusterfuck.
Yeah. It needs to be more like Amazon, where I think Amazon you can actually find stuff really well. There are algorithms for suggestions. Like, hey, people who looked at this also looked at this. People who bought this also bought this, and based on your history, you might like this. That kind of thing.
Of course, Amazon can get kind of pushy with that shit.
Yeah,
I don't really appreciate it from time to time. I've said it.
No, I already bought 3 gallons of Vaseline.
Well, I've said before that sometimes that cookie stuff gets to be really ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because I'll look at something, I'll find a product, I'll buy it, and then those cookies keep suggesting it to me for the next 4 months.
Man,
and I'm like,
I hate those damn cookies.
Dude, I've already got that. I already bought
that invasive crap.
I already bought the microphone. I already bought it. I already bought it.
I went to a clothing website today, and
now he just keeps suggesting ladies' underwear to you over and over again.
Yeah. No, I went to Facebook, and there was an ad for the website I had just been to.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "You sons of bitches!"
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess on the one hand, we've been on the internet for so long that I'm a little bit inured to ads. When they added them into Facebook, it was kind of shitty that they added them in as stories, so it looked like something that was legit. But it's like everything. You eventually just realize what it is and tune it out.
I keep having Facebook just throw the same copy of Iron Fist off of eBay. It just keeps popping up. Are you sure? I'm expecting Mark Zuckerberg to pop up behind my couch and go and be waving that copy of Iron Fist you should get it.
There was I was listening when I was listening to stand up. I was listening to I guess it was Eugene Merman, the guy who does the voice of Gene on Bob's Burgers.
Yeah.
And he was talking about doing targeted Facebook ads. And it sounded really fun because you can target specific demographics.
Mm-hmm.
So he would find candy, and he would target it to 55-year-old men in Israel who like Nickelback on Facebook or something. You know, like you would find like these weird demographics, and you just like shove in $20 to shove this ad for some like sex toys on their Facebook feed.
Yes.
And I was like, holy shit, I never thought about doing that before. That's fucking brilliant. But Carl, I mean, you know, I think that the biggest problem in all of gaming right now, especially now with all the indie stuff that we're seeing, is just how do you get people to know about your game?
Right.
And that if you could totally have a functional website with a good game on it, and nobody could see it because they're busy with Steam and big releases and IGN's website and blah, 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 blah. So I think that's probably the main drawback. I just can't wait for fucking... What do we have to do? Okay, we got EA to take away Project $10, right?
Right.
That's gone now. What do we got to do to make them shut down Origin? Does nobody buy anything?
Yeah.
Or?
Hope. Well, a little more. That's a harder proposition 'cause it's like, you're going to say nobody's going to buy anything from EA,
Right. Yeah. 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 I mean, you know, Titanfall was #1 selling software.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that not all those were Xbox One copies.
Yep.
And if they weren't, fuck, they were
You're
on
starting to
Origin.
see the fragmenting of all these services. That's a good and a bad thing.
You know, the thing that I've seen recently is I think I've seen part of the end game of that approach in Netflix.
Yeah.
And how shitty Netflix is now. I maybe, you know, I like Netflix's original series a lot, but like they don't put as many just like straight new run movies that I wanted to see. I mean, it used to be, you'd be like, oh shit, Iron Man 2 is on. I want to watch that again. Well, you know.
Yeah, Amazon is quickly closing the gap.
Well, and HBO Go.
And HBO Go just announced that, or HBO just announced that a lot of their programming is going to be on Amazon now.
Is it?
They announced that today.
Interesting, because I know that there was an article a long time ago. I think it was HBO. It might have been Showtime, but I'm pretty sure it was HBO.
It's original programming.
Who said, since Netflix is doing their own original programming now, they are a competitor, so you will never see our shows on their service because they're now in direct opposition to us as a content creator, not a content provider. Like there might have been a time when you would have seen that stuff on there, but HBO saw Hemlock Grove and all the the stuff that they were putting out and said, you are now a competitor to us. Which seems weird because I know that Amazon has that John Goodman. What's the political comedy show that they have?
Oh, I don't know.
That's their Amazon Prime.
I haven't watched it.
Do you have Amazon Prime?
Yeah.
Is it any good?
Oh, it's great.
Is it?
It's great.
Is it way better than Netflix?
It's I don't know. You know, I mean, I'm starting to like it. I just started using it.
Yeah.
All of Justified's on there.
I think it's all on Netflix as well, though.
Nope.
No?
No, it is
Used
not.
to be.
Orphan Black is all on Amazon.
Orphan Black.
Yeah.
Because they just started. Are they putting the second season of that up as it's airing on Amazon Prime?
No.
Okay.
No, it's just the first season.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know because that's what I saw. Is it used to be Netflix was the only game in town, and as others have been catching up, I feel like they've been getting less and less.
Right.
And you know, so far, what do we got? Uplay isn't even really a game delivery service. It's more of a pack-in add-on.
I don't even know.
So it's mostly right now just Origin, Steam, but Xbox Marketplace, PlayStation 4. Steam's still kind of the big dog in town.
Yeah.
So somebody actually sent in a question a while back that was saying, like, why doesn't anybody take Steam to task for doing X, Y, and Z crappy things? And it was like, because they do like A through Q good things.
I can't wait for Steam to crash and burn.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Just straight Schadenfreude? Or
nope.
I mean, like, you don't like Steam?
Then maybe I'll get Half-Life 3.
When they're not so busy putting out 10-year-old PC games.
Exactly.
Maybe they'll get off their ass.
When they're not so busy making mountains of money.
You're right. Well, good luck with that, Jason.
I can dream.
We said, we had that whole all things end conversation a while back, but like, I don't see the end for Steam very soon. But I was actually thinking about how it would be. So I had this thought the other day. I'm sorry, we'll go off on a tangent here real fast. I just thought the other day, I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about, there was a question that came in about the whole PS3, PS4 compatibility thing, right? I started thinking, there's a lot of those PS3 and Xbox 360 games where there was a PC version.
Yeah.
Like Assassin's Creed. Let's say Assassin's Creed 2, right?
Yeah.
So I understand that the licensing in this would probably be the place where it would fuck up.
Right.
But it should technically be possible to port those onto the x86 architecture of the new consoles and then let you put in your Assassin's Creed 2 PS3 disc, validate it, and then go download the PC version and just map the controls and play it that way.
That's a good idea.
Like, it shouldn't take that much working to actually make that happen.
Yeah.
And then you'd have a feasible backwards compatibility library with the PC versions. But I'm sure that the licensing would be where all that just died on the table. All right, our next question comes in from Marcus. Marcus says, greetings, members of Rage Select. I have a non-gaming question for you. Recently, I have come to the decision to not continue my PhD in chemistry.
Wow.
This is because of the realization that I had been unhappy for nearly 6 months with the day-to-day routine, constantly working long hours with little acknowledgement or gratification from my supervisor, and ultimately my passion for the subject and wanting to finish the PhD deserting me, and the situation shows no signs of improving, only getting worse as the workload increases. I was wondering if there have been situations in your life where you have where you have hated your job and / or wanted to change jobs, and what signs were and what the signs were which told you that you should be looking to do this. The reason I ask is the experience with my PhD has made me determined to never again get stuck in a situation where I put my time and effort into doing work in an unhappy environment which will never improve, and it would be very useful if in the future I am able to recognize, quote, unquote, the signs that I should change jobs rather than realizing after nearly 6 months of effort. You guys are awesome. Keep up the good work, and thank you for helping me get through some rough days in the lab over the last few months. Marcus. This is a big question.
That is a big question, Marcus.
It's one of the...
Hey, kudos to you for pursuing your happiness. And I think the key to this is finding something that you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something that does make you happy.
Sure.
It's tough because, you know, I've always felt that work is something that you have to do.
Right.
It's just a question of, find something that you like, or at least that you don't hate.
Well, I understand, being in a PhD program, he's obviously put,
a lot.
7, maybe 8 years into this?
Yeah, a lot.
But what I can say is that as far as recognizing the signs, that can sometimes take more than 6 months of effort. You can sometimes do a job for a year and then realize, no.
I was at a job I hated for 15 years.
Right. But you knew that you hated that job.
I did, yeah.
Sometimes you have a job where you're getting paid so well that you're like, hey, I fucking loathe this, but
that's where I was.
I can go buy whatever. You used to tell me the stories of when you went to the comic book store and bought $350 worth of comics every week.
Yeah.
And it was like, whoo, I remember those days.
The halcyon days.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
hard to know. I would say hobbies for me that seems to be a good way to start, right?
What do you mean?
Like if you're looking for, do I want to do this as a job, right?
Oh, right.
You start it as a hobby, see how you like it. You know?
Yeah. That's that's the thing is that doing your hobby as a job can make you hate your hobby. Even if it's a good job.
Yep.
It's I've hated my job before. You've hated your job before.
Oh yeah.
And I think the biggest thing for me is when I would walk up to my job, and I would feel this misery just clutch at my heart, just this dread, where I had been distracted and not thought about it, and then once I did, it was just like, oh God, I'm in the parking lot right now,
right?
I had been listening to the radio or something like that, and I had that at my current job just the other day.
Yeah,
I was pulling up, and I was just like, oh, and I was like, oh wait. I like my job. And it was like,
you were just so used to hating your job.
Yeah, still. And I haven't been there for a long time now.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was just that dread that just suddenly filled the pit of my stomach with ice. But yeah, if you get the Sundays, to quote Allison, where you start feeling miserable Sunday night because your weekend is over and whatever, then that's a good sign too, and
I will tell you a few things though that nobody ever says, right? The common knee-jerk wisdom is everybody's there like, do what you love. You only live once. Do what you love, right?
Yeah. Well, that's great, Pollyanna.
People will say that to you.
Yeah.
People will say it to you when you're miserable about your job. They'll be like, you should figure out what you want, what you love, and you should do that.
Yeah.
But I'm here to tell you that when you do what you love and things aren't going great at your job, it's like a million times worse than if you're working some just fuck off, I don't give a shit job. If you're working some retail bullshit and like that company's getting ready to go out of business and you're just like, ooh, I would hate to be in charge of this shit. Like,
Right.
I just come in here and I
Yeah.
kind of fuck off for 8 hours and collect a paycheck.
And do what you love. No, it's do what you have to. The real thing, everybody says, do what you love and the money will come. Bullshit.
Yeah,
That's a fucking lie.
it is a lie.
That's a fucking lie that maybe it was true when the people who are old now
Yeah.
are telling you that.
Yeah.
That maybe it was true in the 60s or whatever. I don't know. I don't know if that was ever true.
It wasn't. I think that it came from the baby boom generation seeing the prosperity and telling all of I don't know where you consider yourself. No, we're about the same age. So like
Yeah.
children of the 90s, of the late 80s and early 90s. You had this thing of like there was a lot of prosperity, right? There was a lot
Yeah.
of prosperity. There were all these opportunities. There was this new technology coming around, and so it seemed like the sky's the limit. But like I read article after article after article nowadays of people who are told, go do what you love, go to college and study parachute making, and then you'll find a way in the world. And then you get out of college and
You
go,
move in with your parents.
nobody
again.
fucking wants parachutes at this point.
It's like, really? So, you know what I love? I love drinking scotch on my couch and reading comic books. Nobody's going to pay me to do that. No, the real motto is do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do. But don't stay in a job out of fear.
Right. And realize that no matter what, or I don't know, maybe it's not like this for everybody, Jason, maybe it's not like this for you, but no matter what, the moment that anything becomes a thing you have to do, not a thing that you choose to do, it loses a little something.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, there are weeks where there are games that come down the pipe where if I was just working a 9-to-5 job, I wouldn't fucking play that shit. I would have stopped playing it and mailed it back. And I love video games, but like, dumping, like I would never have marathon through Lightning Returns Final Fantasy 13 in 4 days, destroying my life to get through a 50-hour game in 4 days. If I didn't have to review it, you know.
You just got to keep some perspective that there are going to be hard things in any job. And know if the good, if the bad is outweighing the good, be able to recognize that. But sometimes we'll be sitting there like talking to Cargill. And he's like, "Oh man, I'm busting my ass on this script. It's due by Monday." And I'm just like, "Fuck you." And he just kind of laughs. He's like, "Yeah, I know, but blah blah blah."
Yeah. For me, the day that I made the change was when I realized that I was starting to have more and more fantasies about postaling the place up or offing myself. Like that seemed like a really good idea. And I was just like,
back in my past job, I would sit there and just be like, man, it would be awesome if the apocalypse happened.
Yeah.
I would have other things to worry about.
So that's a warning sign, Marcus, is when death seems awesome.
Yeah.
Man, I remember one of my turning points at Dell before I quit. I had a dream that the fucking Judgment Day happened. I was like, Linda Hamilton on the fence, fucking skeleton. And then I woke up, right? And I was like, oh man.
I gotta put my khakis on and my badge.
I thought it was going to be Judgment Day. Fuck. So, yes. All right, our next one comes in from Brandon, and Brandon says, Jeff, this question is mainly for you. Now, I'm 20 years old with a full face of manliness, and I'm often mistaken to be older, which is nice. How old were you when you started to grow your beard? Also, how do you trim your beard? I'm lazy and just put my clippers at number 2. Thanks for answering my strange question. Brandon.
When he said he had a face full of manliness, I was just picturing him like, well, he's about to make somebody very happy.
What? What are you saying?
Never mind. Go
ahead. What are you saying? Are you saying that Brandon has dicks growing out of his face?
I was saying that he's... Never mind. I'm not even going to explain it.
Right.
Somebody got it out there.
Yeah, all right. I got you. I wonder about him saying I put my clippers at 2, because if I put my clippers at 2,
it's very short.
It would be tiny.
It's very short.
I run with like a 6. So it's been a while, so I thought I would tell the story of my beard.
This is the true Banner saga.
Yeah.
It was the story of my beard.
So
gather round.
It's a really stupid story.
Yeah,
Jason's heard it before.
I don't remember it.
Probably
wasn't listening.
About what would you say, 5 years ago, maybe about 5 years ago, maybe 6. I was dating this woman, and she was. You've met her, the scientist belly dancer, right? You met her at the bar one time.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I was dating this woman, right? And
Yeah, he was very nice.
shut up, Jason. And she was big into nerds and shit, right? Which would be good that she was dating me.
Yeah.
But she was a huge fan of Zach Galifianakis, right?
Right.
And so one day we were just sitting there chatting.
Is this pre or post Hangover?
I think it was post Hangover 1, pre Hangover 2.
Okay.
This is comedy album Between Two Ferns, kind of
Yeah.
early Zach Galifianakis.
Sure.
Or mid early.
Yeah. He used to have a talk show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. go
And
ahead.
she was like, "Hey, have you ever considered growing a beard?"
Yeah.
And I was like, no, but I don't, I guess the thing is that for me at that time in my life, like part of shaving and all the facial grooming stuff was pretty much devoted to like how I look to women.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck what men think about me. And
Right.
as a white male, it means that I could have the Lemmy, anything but the Hitler, and you're okay.
Yeah.
You give a fuck off cop mustache, other people generally don't judge you. Fucking mutton chops. This in Austin, nobody gives a shit.
Well, I do, but anyway.
Well, Jason does.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the little like line goatee where it's just the
God.
just the one
Like
little
your
line,
mystery, the pickup artist.
right? But so she was like, "Have you ever considered growing a beard?" And I was like, "No, but and she's like, "Well, I dig dudes with beards. Would you be willing to try it for me?" And I was like, yeah, sure. It's less work, right?
Yeah.
It's less work than shaving every day. I don't have to look at my face. You're the one who has to look at my face. So I started growing out the beard. And then like 2 weeks later, like I was in mid-early beard stages and I was still scratchy and shit like that.
Yeah.
The two of us broke up. And then I was kind of depressed. And so I was like, fuck it. And I was starting just to get to the end of the scratchy phase. Because
Yeah.
for those of you who've never grown a beard, like when you start, it sucks balls and then it gets long enough and it gets softer. And I was like, fuck it. I'll just do this. Right. And then I did that. And then around that, I just kept the beard for a while, and then I decided I'm going to shave it off one day. And so I shaved it off. And all my friends were like, "Oh, you shaved off your beard. Why'd you do that? It looked so good." And I was like, well, if everybody thinks it looks good, once again, I don't have to look at my face. I'm going to grow it back out again. Then I drew a cartoon of myself with the beard on, and from there... I'm not allowed to shave my beard off.
There it is.
Because people get all freaked out when I do. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Jason, have you had a big fuck off like Luke Mullins beard?
Have I
Like-
ever had one of those?
Yeah, like
No.
lumberjack beard.
No, I couldn't do that.
I mean, mine got before I bought my clippers. It got a little bigger, but like when it just terminates into
Yeah.
like a fucking
Yeah.
a wedge or nothing.
Some sort of hobo rape thicket.
Right, I can't. I look at those Duck Dynasty motherfuckers and just go,
Yeah.
Jesus, man, come on.
I'm too. It looks like I have like radiation poisoning on parts when the hair gets too thick, and there's just bald spots.
Oh, patchiness.
Yeah, it's just patchy. I look like
Yeah.
a mange.
Yeah, Peter complains to me all the time about that as well.
So I just go for the unshaven look.
you've kind of gotten halfway to beard at times.
Yeah.
like I've seen you when you haven't shaved for like 3 or 4 weeks or
Yeah.
something. But then you go ahead and shave.
Yeah,
because
then
you
I'm
got
just
something
like,
to do.
yeah, I'm gonna shave it. Whatever. Yeah.
So I've never considered it to be like, I mean, in Austin, maybe it's because we live in Austin and there's so much beard subculture
Oh, it's stupid.
that I thoroughly reject, Movember and the beard competitions and stuff like this.
Yes.
It's just like, it's fine. It's fine. You guys should see me sometime. Maybe someday for the patrons, if we be absolutely sure that I'm never going to have to be on camera for like 2 or 3 months, we can show them what Jeff looks like with just a mustache that Jason has seen before. It's a horrifying
It's
thing, you guys.
weird. It's weird.
All right, our next one comes in from Leonardo. Leonardo says, "Hello, Rage Select crew. I used to be a PlayStation kind of guy before discovering the wonders of PC gaming. Despite that, I've always held the Xbox 360 in high regard. I'll be the first one to admit it did much better during the last generation, but this time it's just hard not to feel bad for its descendant, the Xbox One. Jeff, you mentioned before you used to work for Microsoft and that sometimes they had a very totalitarian way of doing things. In your opinion, what can Microsoft do right now to close their first year of the Xbox One strong, while at the same time provide the gaming community with a favorable second impression, or have they just foobarred themselves? Thanks for answering my question. Keep up the good work. And have a great Dark Souls 2 PC weekend. Hope I get to backstab you, Leonardo from Houston. Unfortunately, I can't. Dark Souls 2 comes out this Friday.
Yeah.
I don't have time to buy it and play it
What are
again.
you going to be doing?
we got a bunch of other stuff. What am I
Like?
going to do? Review? Well, I got to review Trials. I got a bunch of other games that have come in that I need to play and review.
Okay.
Got a live stream to do. There's people out there who just don't want to see me play Dark Souls 2 forever. Okay, for example, last weekend when we did our Sunday stream,
Of course.
I started with Kingdoms of Amalur because it was on sale.
Yeah.
You remember Kingdoms of Amalur?
Yeah.
That kind of shitty game?
Yeah, it kind of sucked.
Yeah, it was on sale on Steam, and then I was like, fuck this, I want to play something that I like. So I switched over to Dark Souls 2, and there were at least 2 or 3 people that were just like, oh, I wanted to see Kingdoms of Amalur. And I was like, you really don't want to see Kingdoms of Amalur. But we talked about this a little bit before. My answer to this has always been, do you think that if they sold a SKU without the Kinect for $100 less, that would be all they needed to do?
I think that would help out a lot. But really, at this point, I think that would help, but also just put out some good games. Mm-hmm. May your exclusives be really good, and that will help you out tremendously.
Yeah.
That's really what you got to do right now.
I mean, they're only 2 million away, so it's not a big gap.
Right. You keep knocking it out of the park with successes like Titanfall, you're going to be doing okay.
I wonder, do you think that we're going to get that new Halo game this year, or do you think they're going to stretch that out to next year?
I think we'll find out within the next 2 months.
Really? That's your answer?
Yep, that's my answer.
But what could they put out on the Xbox One first party wise?
Isn't Destiny first party? No.
No. That's
cross-platform.
Cross-platform. Because that's Bungie's first cross-platform thing in a while.
Right.
Gears is that's done for now.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, they've got that Halo series they talked about at E3. Remember that Spielberg was supposed to be involved in or whatever.
Yeah.
Original programming for the Xbox One. I don't know. I mean, I've seen that the PlayStation 4 seems to be kind of eating their lunch with the indie stuff right now. Stuff like Mercenary Kings and some of the other stuff that they've had. So
what you do is if this new Kinect is worth a damn,
it's not.
Okay, never mind. Never mind.
But I want to hear what you wanted to say.
Well,
were you going to say something good about the Kinect, Jason Murphy?
No, I wasn't. But I was going to say if it actually works, make a good killer game for the Kinect.
Yeah.
Don't make something that everybody wants to play, but ruin it by putting the Kinect on there. Mm-hmm. Make a good Kinect game.
I wonder what are some I had forgotten before they announced it last year that Dead Rising was originally an Xbox exclusive. I wonder what other Xbox 360 exclusives, what other franchises.
You mean Xbox One exclusive?
No. What other franchises they can get out of the 360?
Banjo-Kazooie.
Fable. They could probably put out Fable 4. That would be a big one, right? Well, the Fable series is fairly well beloved.
Yeah.
I'm looking through this list. We've already got a Forza. 99 Nights 3.
Yeah.
A new Geometry Wars probably wouldn't hurt.
They went under.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I
think.
Halo.
Which is a shame because I love Geometry Wars. Another Project Gotham?
Perfect Dark. Zero 2. Dance Central. A new Dance Central wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, those seem to be fairly... the third one was a little bit stupid, apparently, but the other ones seemed to be fairly well received. Original... Oh, yeah, I forgot the original Saints Row was 360 for a while.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Kinect Star Wars 2, obviously. Obvious solution. now that...
Yeah,
I'm not seeing a lot.
See what
here.
What other abominations against a beloved franchise they can come up with.
I'm not seeing. Oh, you know what? This was a game, right? Lost Odyssey.
Yeah, didn't we play that?
No. There was an RPG that I always wanted to play. I think this is the one that I'm thinking of, where it was an RPG about people who live forever, and so it was a really weird kind of long thing. It was supposed to be really well received when it came out because it came out around the same time as that Blue Dragon game that was made by had all the Dragon Ball Z art in it. they could probably get away with doing a few of those, but unfortunately, those games take a long time to develop.
Those still aren't big system sellers, you know.
Maybe they need what they need is they need to hit a tipping point. It doesn't matter any one piece of software. They need enough exclusive software to make it worth your while.
Yeah, totally. That's what I'm saying.
And make it $400. If it was $400, seriously,
that would help.
All right. Next up, we got a question from Ryan. Ryan says, I've never asked a question before, but I've been a fan since the old site, so here it goes. Jeff, I know you've mentioned that you're a fan of the Dune series. I just read the first one, and I loved it. I was excited to read the sequels, but some of my friends keep insisting that they aren't any good. Are they worth reading? Thanks, Ryan. Actually, I brought this up because I wanted to know if you have read all of the...
I haven't read any of the Dune books.
What?
I know.
You're missing out.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
No, seriously. I mean, like, even if you don't read the rest of them, the first one is a science fiction masterpiece.
Okay. I mean, I figured it had to have all that love for a reason.
Like,
so.
I remember thinking when I was first, and I know that this isn't correct because of when the books came out, but I remember Game of Thrones, when I was first watching Game of Thrones, in my mind I was kind of likening it to Dune, because in Dune they have the different houses that are warring against each other in this big kind of conflict. So here's the thing. I'm not going to try to tell you that the Dune books, that the sequels to Dune are better than Dune, but if you like that universe, they're totally worth reading.
Okay. But there are a lot of them, right?
There's 5.
And they're all huge
Dune,
tomes.
Children of Dune, Dune Heretics, God Emperor, and then Chapter House. So I think 5 total. And then, of course, his son and another writer wrote a bunch of other ones.
Yeah.
I've never read any of them.
Yeah.
I remember there was a Penny Arcade comic where was Tycho's character saying that they were raping his corpse and writing these books, which was a joke, obviously, but I like Frank Herbert's writing style so much that I'm afraid of reading those.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of those ones where I am afraid of reading those books and having it sully my idea of the series.
Sure.
I've got those other books just to read. But I'll tell you, the Dune books get fucking weird. Like, the second 2 books after the first one kind of directly follow the story of Paul and his kids and stuff like that. But, like, by the time you get to the 4th and 5th book, like, you're starting to deal with massive amounts of time passing in that universe, and like whole planets changing and the whole political structure of the universe being rewritten. So I know that a lot of people lose it when it comes to God Emperor, and I don't blame them, but I think that if you like the first one, it's just like anything, right? You like the first one, read the second one, see if you like it.
Yeah.
If you like it, keep reading. Don't take somebody else's opinion. Don't even listen to my opinion about the other books that his kid wrote. Fucking go read those and see if you like them.
Try it. But this is the thing I have to talk myself out of. It's like, if I'm in the middle of a book or a movie that sucks, I don't have to finish it.
Yeah.
A lot of times I feel like I do, and I'll just slog through something. Mm-hmm. But not too long ago, I'm like, oh, wait, I could turn this off.
Yeah.
I could put this book down and never pick it up again.
Yep.
And be happy.
Children, okay.
Holy shit, that's a lot of books.
Okay, but see, I think there's 6. I think there's 6 originals. It's Dune, Messiah, and then Children of Dune, and then Heretics, God Emperor, Chapter House, and what's the other one that I saw? Heretics. No, I already mentioned that. So maybe 5. But then, like, all the rest of these, Dune, House Harkonnen, Dune, the Butlerian Jihad, Dune, the Machine Crusade, all of these are
That's insane.
Those are the other ones that are written by
20 there?
Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson.
Oh, Kevin J. Anderson.
Yeah.
Of course.
Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
Oh, is he any good?
He's, some people like him. He seems to be, I haven't read a lot of his stuff. I know he wrote a lot of, like, mediocre Star Wars books. He's just kind of a workman's sci-fi guy. He's been doing it for a while. And yeah, I don't think he has anything legendary, but I think he often plays in other people's sandboxes.
Oh, okay.
I think he writes like a lot of movie adaptations too.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, but the original.
I could be selling him totally short, but
I mean, I may not be the best person to ask because I'm also a fucking prostitute for Frank Herbert. He's like my favorite science fiction author.
Okay.
I really like the way he writes, and I think that he had another series that was the Desadai Experiment and the Whipping Star. that was really cool. That was, the whole thing was based on this guy who was the master saboteur, right?
Yeah.
And the whole part of the bent of the novels was it was in the future, and it was this idea that whenever a society gets too large, it will eventually topple under its own weight and crumble. And so there was this branch of people who were essentially saboteurs that would go to successful societies and instill, they would break down parts of the society to keep that society from growing to the point where it would eventually topple under its own weight. A real weird kind of metaphysical
I like to
joke.
think of us as serving, performing in that service.
Eroding parts of of American society.
Not just American. Our reach is
Earth.
far.
Yeah.
Earth.
Yeah. Dude, you didn't have to fill out the customs forms for all the international T-shirts. I saw where that shit was going. So yeah, I highly recommend it, Ryan. Just go take a read.
Dig in.
Plus, if you go to like a Half Price Books, you can pick up all the new novels for like $8 because they're cheap as shit.
Yeah.
All right. Philip writes in to say, hey, Jeff and Jason, my roommate thinks comic books are boring because they just rehash the same stories and same characters without doing anything new. He thinks they rarely introduce new plots or characters, and that makes them boring garbage. He also has read only a couple of comic books. So how would you react, Jason, to this? I am going to make him listen to your comment, so have at him. Thanks, Philip. Jason, I'm going to put the microphone down. Feel free.
Oh, Philip, first of all, you need a new roommate because he is a fucking Philistine. See, people say that because it's all that the corruption of the youth or whatever that book was back in the 60s. They just vilified comics. Comic books used to be huge, but comic books are, they're just like any other medium. They're like movies or television or so forth. It's just that they go on forever. So I can kind of understand where he's coming from, but he's wrong. There are so many good creators working right now that are just doing all sorts of things with familiar characters. The Hawkeye series is about an Avenger in his off time running a tenement building in New York, protecting it against Russian thugs. And they, everything is covered in comic books. If you're looking for something in particular, you're going to be able to find it. There are parables about racism and sexism and xenophobia and homophobia, everything. Just stories with all of these brilliant, rich themes. There's also some garbage, but they're not boring. I have to sit there and say, oh, my God, I'm spending way too much. And I'm pretty discerning. I'll cut something. If it's I can't even read mediocre books right now.
You're reading like the top 1%.
Yeah,
That's all you have the money for.
I don't have I don't have time or money.
Yeah.
And so, I have to grab things that are good, that only the good stuff. I don't have time to read anything else. Mm-hmm. And if I read something that's just okay, I'm just like, oh, piss off. I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
If it's a perfectly serviceable book. But yeah, it's if they're boring garbage, why are they spawning these huge billion-dollar industries with movies and games and TV shows and stuff like that? It's like, tell your roommate, did you watch The Avengers? Did you enjoy it? Really? Then kill yourself, you fucking hypocrite. Or go read a comic book. God, if half the people who tried shawarma after Avengers went and bought an Avengers comic, it would be just a renaissance of sales in the comics.
He says comics are boring because they just rehash the same stories and characters without doing anything new, right? So by that logic, there should never be another Batman movie, or it should be incredibly unsuccessful every time they make it. Batman has been beating up criminals in Gotham City for how many years?
Like 70?
The entire time? That's his whole thing. That's all he ever does.
Yeah.
He's not patrolling Space Sector 462 with the Green Lantern. He's beating up dudes in Gotham City. So, yeah. That just
and
seems like
he has only read a couple of comic books. What has he read?
That seems like some upper tier reductivist bullshit.
Yeah.
It's
just him being snotty.
You could say the same thing about, 24 is just about Jack Bauer shooting people every week. Why do you watch that? It's boring. It's just the same thing over and over again. Or anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
I've gotten people who have never read a comic book in their life hooked on series.
Yeah.
You just got to know them and know what they're into and know your comics, know what's out there right now so you can recommend something to them.
Yeah. Also, comics.
But it sounds like he's just being a prick.
Yeah, it kind of does. It kind of sounds like he's trolling you.
Yeah.
You're being trolled, Philip. Also, comics. I never thought about this before, and I don't remember where I first read it. But comics have a thing that books and movies don't have, which I'd never thought about until I read this article. It's talking about how because comics are showing you this frame of action and then this frame of action, that unlike books and movies, your brain is filling in what happens between those different things. So it's kind of engaging you in a slightly different way than some other stuff is. I mean, not to say that books don't, but it would be like if you're reading a book and it was like one line of dialogue and then another line of dialogue across town in a different room.
I've seen some stuff, especially in recent years, some stuff pulled off in comic books, some clever little storytelling tricks that you can't do in movies or books.
Sure.
You just can't do it. One of them was in an issue of Sex Criminals, and then another one was in Alan Moore's Neonomicon.
Okay.
They were just really fascinating tricks.
Plus, it's interesting that comic books sit in this area where they're big enough that they are marketable. People are buying them. It is an industry, right? So I feel like we don't see I don't expose myself to as many fictional novels these days as I used to. You go on Amazon, it's just like, what should I get? It's like, would you like Hunger Games or Game of Thrones? Because those are the only two books anybody's buying at this point in time.
Right.
But the comics have, I feel like they're still in a place where there's still enough flexibility for them to try stuff, right? As opposed to when we're talking about movies being written by the accountants and committee and stuff like that, that sometimes you've seen stuff like that happen with, I think Marvel had problems with that a while back in the Civil War timeline, or that I've heard of very overbearing editors at comic book companies who are telling the authors and writers, like, you do this,
a lot.
not this.
Actually,
this,
DC is apparently bad about that.
Right.
That's what that
was the whole reason that Image was created, right? Was the creator
for that freedom.
Yeah. But I feel like there's still stuff that you can get away with in comics. You can try different things that have never been done before. That you can't necessarily try when you're talking about hiring an artist to draw these things, as opposed to spending $70 million on the CGI necessary to make this happen.
That's right.
Et cetera. So, make him
tell him to get a stick out of his ass,
or make him go read some more comics,
or you take a stick and you shove it right up his ass,
or just give him more comics and make him read them. And if he doesn't like superheroes, then give him fucking Ghost World, or I don't know, Odd 8 Ball or something like that.
Sex Criminals.
Isn't that a superhero?
No.
They have superpowers, though, right?
They do.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like every time they have an orgasm, time stops.
Yeah.
And it sounds ridiculous, and it is, but the story's great.
Or
it's actually really good.
Go pick up something like we were talking about last week. The Ed Brubaker run of Sleeper.
Criminal.
Ed Brubaker almost exclusively writes like crime stuff.
Yeah.
Did he write? Was he the one who wrote Torso?
I think so.
Comic about the first American serial killer.
Or was that? I can't remember.
Or was that Bendis?
I think Torso may have been Bendis.
Oh, okay. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff out there.
I never did read it.
It was all right. Stuff. You go into reading stuff like From Hell.
Yeah, it's Bendis.
Okay, it is Bendis. Stuff like From Hell or
V for Vendetta,
Ghost World. I mean, there's plenty of stuff that doesn't have. If it's tights and capes, it's his problem. There are plenty of non-tights and capes comics.
Yeah. Walking Dead.
But Walking Dead. Go have him read Mouse and then tell you how shitty comic books are.
Yeah.
I dare you. Tape his response. All right. Our next question comes in from Michael. Michael says, "Hello to Jeff. It's fine. Schuessler, Jason, Cockpickle Murphy, Grant, shut the fuck up, Davis, Nick, all right, mate, Hodges, and I don't know why he's addressing everybody.
Yeah.
And Kevin, I don't know, Baird. What I've got here isn't so much a question as a discussion point, something that occurred to me a while ago, and I can't get out of my head. Quite often, whenever a game does a big, elaborate, and often heavily scripted set piece, gamers will refer to it as being very cinematic or movie-like. And yet, I often hear similar sequences in movies described by film buffs as being like a video game. I feel like this is indicative of both gamers and film buffs having a very limited mindset about one another's chosen media of obsession. Gamers think of movies as being Hollywood blockbusters, primarily without much thought given to smaller films, while film buffs regard video games as being just big, loud, dumb, mindless entertainment. Certainly, I found most gamers, at least the ones who are fully grown adults, to be much more open-minded as to what non-game media can be, rather than what hardcore film buffs are as to what games can be. I'm curious if you've ever noticed this, have any thoughts on it, or just think I'm full of shit and want to make fun of me. Best regards, Michael. This is a complicated question.
I'm trying to. It's a little dense. What is the question?
I think it's more of a discussion point than a question. I think that when you boil it down, what he's kind of asking is, this part of him seems to be saying in this last sentence that it seems like
a train leaves Cleveland at 45 miles per hour.
Right. That gamers, that non-gamers, that movie people tend to be more reductivist about what games are and can be, as opposed to gamers thinking about movies type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I could see both sides of it. A lot of it was like the question we just answered. Really,
yeah.
It's like a lot of people have they're predisposed to these ideas because they haven't really experienced it.
Right.
It's like if you think video games are just big, dumb, and loud, well, you probably haven't played Journey.
Sure. Yeah.
You probably haven't played Heavy Rain, or there's a lot of really different.
Please.
Papers, Please. Yeah. But it's always the big, dumb, loud ones that get the response. And there are probably some people who are just bibliophiles who sit at home and read all the time and don't really have any taste for movies or anything.
Sure.
They think, they made a couple of good movies, with Truffaut and Breathless and all that.
Yeah.
And but books are where it's at, But they haven't really followed indie cinema or anything like that. They're big, vast mediums, and but then with video games, there's some legitimacy to their arguments in that I think the video game. There are people who look at movies and say that these big cinematic set pieces are just like a video game.
Uh-huh.
I think a lot of that is because the overuse of CGI or the poor use of it. I think that's really where a lot of that stems from. And from the other direction, people who say, it's really cinematic in this game. That's because a lot of games they still. Not nearly as much as they used to, but they still borrow from movies quite a bit, and they still have this thing to where they feel like they have to that framework is what people know,
right?
And they want to mimic it and imitate it.
Well, it's storytelling,
it's
right?
a moving visual medium,
right?
Yeah.
We're familiar with it. We know the language of movies and how a two-shot goes and a zoom and that kind of stuff. So that we're all that elicits a certain type
we're still
of
figuring out the methods that we can use that are specific to video games.
Yeah, it's funny. I've always felt that whenever I hear movie people, well, I don't want to make it like it's a distinction or whatever, but when I hear people who are more into movies than I am say like, I saw the new blah blah movie. She was just like watching a cutscene in a video game, and I'm like, not really. I mean, I don't know. Comparing any movie to a video game to me is weird because they're they have similarities, right? But like movies are non-interactive and video games are interactive, and there's a difference between the way that you engage with each one of those. I don't know. I don't know if I've got. I find that most of the time, most gamers that I know also tend to be
also big film fans,
big movie fans.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
It doesn't necessarily go in the opposite direction. Like movie people that I know don't necessarily like video games, but I feel that like a lot of gamers were maybe like, especially people who are as old as I am. We were all watching movies, and then once this new technology, we're like, "Oh shit, I can interact with these movies!
Yeah,
give it to me, give it to me, give it to me!"
Right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have a really good answer here for Michael.
I think that is a good answer.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then let's go on to a little advice here from Henry. Henry says, "Hey, Jeff and Jason, been a listener since the unspeakable times and have always enjoyed the podcast and reviews most. Your content has gotten me through this year, my junior year of high school. My dumbass decision..." Okay, I thought he said something else. Okay. "My dumbass decision to go to a private Christian school has yielded a year filled with teachers that are a bunch of assholes and insult us every day besides the idiotic behavior of the other kids.
Christian school.
Yay! So my question, did you have similar problems in high school, and if so, how did you deal with them? Sorry if the email doesn't make sense. I was really pissed off and sleep deprived when I wrote it. Henry. So Henry's having a shitty time at a Christian high school.
Yeah.
How was your high school experience, Jason?
It was fine. I had a big high school, so it was. There were very few loners. There were enough people where anybody could find their group of like-minded people.
Sure.
So yeah, my high school was fine. That high school experience was, for the most part, it was all right. I had a good time. I wasn't terribly popular or anything, but honestly, it was so big that nobody was popular.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No. I hated high school,
Yeah.
but apparently I was popular, and I didn't know it when I was in high school.
You're a fucking liar.
No, seriously, like I've had since high school, like once every year or two, right? Somebody will walk up to me and they'll be like, "You're Jeff Chusler," and I'm like, "I am. What can I do for you?" And they're like, "I sat next to you in biology, and you were in that band in high school, and I went to your show," and I'm just like, "I'm sorry, I don't know what your name is. Who are you? What? Nice to see you, pal." Because I was in like 2 or 3 punk rock bands in high school, but I didn't like it. It was a good place to buy drugs. High school. I don't know. I guess it kind of depends. Like I've talked before. We actually talked about this last time, right? We were talking about the gentleman talking about trying to talk to the women in his school, right? About how high school is a wonderful place for making. It can be a wonderful place for making connections with other people because you're shoved into this common experience that you all have to talk about, right?
Yeah.
You never have to worry about what to talk about with somebody in high school because you can talk about fucking high school. But as far as like the actual high school itself went, I was never. I kept taking these advanced placement courses, and they just seemed really easy. And then everybody around me was having difficulty with them. I don't know. It was.
Well, the thing with high school, it's don't take it too seriously. You have to realize that schools are a fascist dictatorship and you don't have any rights.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. You really don't. It's absurd.
I got to put in school suspension for having a ponytail.
Really?
Uh-huh. For 3 days, I was in school suspension because there was one principal who wanted me. I had skater haircut, right?
Yeah.
I kept wanting me to take my hair out of a ponytail because the rules at our school were made for the 1930s.
Right.
But my teachers would let me put my hair up in a ponytail because it meant that it wasn't in my face, so I could get my work done.
Yeah.
And then I would go out of class, and this one principal had a mat on for me. He would see me, and then one day he had enough of it. He put me in in-school suspension the same week that I got my letter jacket for academics in high school. And that moment was the moment where I finally stopped trusting all authority for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, what you're doing here. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Yep. I had one of those. I had one of those vice principal jackasses.
Yep.
Who would sit there. They called one teacher. They sent a handful of us in. It was like, okay, Miss advanced placement person. It was English or something. I don't remember. And it's like, I need your 5 best students or whatever.
Right.
They sent 5 of us in, and the vice principal's like, okay, we're going to need you guys for this thing to put on the best face for the. And he looks at me. He's like, "What are you doing in here?" And I was just like, "You wanted the smartest." Because I was already sick of this guy's shit. But what you have to realize is, listen, delight in your youth, have fun, because those 4 years of high school, they don't fucking matter.
Yes.
They do not matter.
Yes, Henry.
Just take it.
And he's already a junior.
Yeah.
He's only got 1 year left.
Yeah,
right?
man. Enjoy it. I mean, get good grades. Don't screw that up.
Yeah.
Just, and I hate to say it, but just kind of suck it up with your teachers. Just don't take it seriously. Like, do your classes. Don't mouth off, because it's not going to get you anywhere. Unless it makes you feel good, then hey, have a blast.
There is the one thing that I do wish that had been said is that there are some limits as to how much the teachers in a high school, they can't fuck your life up.
Right.
They'll make it seem like they can fuck your life up.
Oh, yeah.
But they can't do shit to you.
They want you to think that they own you forever.
Right.
And that what they do to you now will just have ramifications throughout the rest of your life.
And
it's just not true.
If you do bad shit in high school, that you're messing up your whole life, kid.
Yeah.
What are you doing with your, and it's just like, no, fucking no.
Yeah.
Like,
the thing is, though, you're young. Enjoy it, man. Don't be miserable. Find your place. Find some people that have your same interests and that you can trust.
Yeah.
And if you can't, hey, you always got us.
Yeah.
Listen to your podcast, play your video games, watch TV, read a book, buy some comic books, whatever. But high school,
fuck
it's a cakewalk. It doesn't mean anything. Get some good grades. Learn what you can. Maybe go to college. Maybe not. Whatever. But do what makes you happy. But just remember that, these people don't own you. Just get through it. You're almost done. You'll be fine.
The other thing that I would say to Henry here is that, and I don't know if it's the same. You tell me if you agree with this, Jason. Is that for the most part in my life, whenever I meet people and they say like, "Oh man, high school was the best 4 years of my life."
I know.
They're usually the stupidest, worst people that I've ever met.
It's like, really? Hey, you want to go over to Walgreens and maybe get like a pack of razors?
Right.
It's like, I will run some warm bathwater for you, my friend, because it's over.
Yeah. I met some of them at my high school reunion where they were just like, "Oh man, do you remember when this thing happened?" And I'm like, "No."
Yeah, I know.
When I was 21, I went to Europe and bungee jumped on mushrooms. I give a fuck less of 4 years of high school.
Yeah. Oh my God, I want the picture of you bungee jumping on mushrooms, holding your hand out, going, "Look at all the fucks I give."
Right.
I've got my high school reunion coming up, and
Is it 20?
yeah, and I was looking at Facebook, and I was just like, I don't care.
You people-
I just don't know who any of you people are.
Yeah.
And some people are like, some people have said that those are the best 4 years of my life, and
Right.
I just laugh and laugh. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that sucks.
Well, that's another thing to remember, Henry, is that I don't know if it's going to be the same, and maybe our listeners in the comments can tell you more stories so they can corroborate one way or another. But I'll tell you right now, I don't really hang out with but like one, maybe two people that I went to high school with.
Yeah.
Like those
God,
people.
you still live where you went to high school or near it.
Near it, yeah, but I don't fucking associate with,
Yeah.
Like as soon as I wasn't forced to be in a building with those assholes, I went out and found like other people
Yeah.
who were more interesting than them.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
But again, it doesn't matter.
I tell you what you need to do, Henry, if you really want to get at it. Well, I don't know if your school does it, but if you really want to make some progress, take 2 classes over the summer and try to get a half day for your senior year.
It's great. Yeah.
I used to do that when I was
That's a good.
there.
I did that. Yeah.
And then go like work some part-time job or something, have all this money in your pocket. Like
I just hung out at the school. I was like, I'm just going to go to the library, or I'm going to go sit in this class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as I could get the fuck off that place, I did. All right, I got 2 more questions here. The next one is from Mama. Our friend Mama Afro says, "Dearest overlords of rage, good tidings to you in Dongakli's name. I recently completed Hotline Miami and really dug the hell out of it. So much so, and I'm almost ashamed to say this, I became really keen on the idea of a Hotline Miami movie. I'm thinking Drive with Raid 2 levels of violent action and a little David Lynch on the side. Now, I'm fully aware about how taboo and uncool the desire to see a video game movie has become in recent years, but maybe the reason these movies always suck is because they're picking the wrong games. Big movie studios are only interested in AAA titles that might not necessarily transition into interesting movies. Instead, maybe the interesting, creative, and popular indie scene is where they should be looking. So which low-budget indie games would you be interested in seeing in movie form, if any? And do you think the movie industry will ever get more creative with their video game adaptation choices? Hopefully Last of Us will be a good start. Yours, Mama Afro. P.S. I tried to keep it short. I really tried."
Well, I think you make a really good point in that, yeah, they generally tend to only go, well, because, again, the movie industry is scared.
Yeah.
You know, they're making all of these already established names, quote unquote, and they're just starting to scrape the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
But you're right. They, as far as video games go, they only seem to go after the big ones. And I don't know if that's necessarily because they're picking bad properties to adapt, because you really don't see a lot of video game movies. I just think they're poorly made movies. You know, like
We
Street
talked
Fighter.
Well, we were talking about last week with all the Uwe Boll stuff.
Right.
know.
Yeah, those are just bad movies. I don't think they're necessarily bad properties. Could there be a good Street Fighter movie? Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely, there could be an awesome Street Fighter movie.
You know, what I was just thinking was how something like, I was trying to think of stuff that would be indie games that would make that you could do with a lower budget.
Yeah.
I think that, okay, and this is a weird idea, but I think that DayZ could probably be you could probably adapt that into an interesting property, because we already know that, like, the indie movies and in big budget movies, we got zombies locked, right? We got a fucking weekly TV series with zombies on it. Like, it's not a hard thing to do anymore.
Right.
So maybe if you took, like, DayZ and you maybe tried to craft some kind of story that was about long-term individual survival in the zombie apocalypse.
Oh, sure.
Not like Walking Dead soap opera style, but like gritty, hardcore realism.
Like Survivor Man.
Right.
Like, but with zombies.
With Bear Grylls.
With Bear Grylls.
As the dude.
No, 'cause I want to see him get eaten.
But, you know, I think there are some indie games out there that might... I was thinking, what, Minecraft? That really wouldn't make...
No. Minecraft, they've probably been approached about it. Hell, somebody's already probably bought the rights.
If they're making the Peeps movie, I wouldn't be surprised if...
Stanley Parable could be kind of cool.
Outlast would probably make a good indie horror movie. Like, it's all set in one place.
Sure.
You find just, like, some asylum out somewhere that you could go film in.
I've seen so many movies like that. I'm thinking Stanley Parable as done by Brian Fuller.
Yeah?
You know, something like that.
That would be one of those weird experimental indie movies, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah,
kind of
totally.
like the Black Beyond the Black Rainbow.
Right.
But less horror-y and more...
Not Papers, Please.
Not
'cause
Papers, Please.
I don't want to
Well,
kill myself.
Papers, Please.
Papers, Please would probably win an Oscar.
Yeah, it would probably be Surgery Simulator.
Yeah, there
That's
you
where we go.
Oh, dude, Banner Saga.
Banner Saga would make a great movie. But once again, though, that would probably be too big for indies because you have to do all the costumes and stuff like that. But
Well, did they say an indie movie? Is that what he said?
I think that's what
Or
he was
just,
asking
like,
was-
adapting an indie game into a movie.
Well, was adapting...
Oh, no. So, see, it says, so which low-budget indie games would you be interested in seeing in movie form?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe so.
Banner Saga, man.
Banner Saga.
Hell yeah.
Hotline Miami would actually probably make a really good...
Dude, I think he nailed it on that one.
You do Hotline Miami with, like, James Gunn or... Oh, my God. I want Paul Verhoeven to make a Hotline Miami movie, and I want him to use the same blood packs from RoboCop.
Yes.
Because I don't know. You never played Hotline Miami to the point where
I
it gets,
didn't. I watched it.
It starts getting really weird. Like,
Yeah.
the story of it starts getting really bizarre. I think that's where the David Lynch stuff comes in. But yeah, I think that maybe that's what you do is you take a smaller game that doesn't need a whole lot of special effects and you make and these days, and you follow movie stuff more than I do, but it seems like these days, even with indie movies, like you got to have something that's people are buzzing about, whether it's an actor or a script or a director.
The distribution model is kind of shot.
Nidhogg, the game.
Yes, exactly. It's just an hour and a half of people stabbing each other and running.
Blarg. Yeah. So
there you go.
All right, and then we got one more question from Dirac. Says, "Hello, gentlemen and or lady. What is your favorite guitar solo or drum solo, bass solo, whatever you appreciate most? My personal favorite is Frank Zappa's work on the song Inca Roads. Do you have? Do
Man,
these things come to mind?
I'm trying to think. You know, I like a lot of simple, stripped down stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, not a lot of the artful solos. You know, I can appreciate those.
There's a couple that come to mind. There's, I know this will probably be an eye roller for you, Jason, but
Okay.
or maybe not. I forget how many of my friends don't like which bands that I listen to.
Sure.
But on Boston's album Boston,
Okay.
there's the song Peace of Mind, right?
Okay.
And when you listen to Peace of Mind, there's kind of this dueling guitar solo.
Oh, yeah.
Where they do like one side and the other side and the other
Yeah,
side. And then that kind of builds up, and then they play a harmony of the same solo. It's
Oh no, that sounds really good.
really good, like
Yeah.
kind of punchy solo. I think that the Beatles song, "The End," where it's kind of like the whole song is a solo. It's an instrumental that starts out with the Ringo doing a very simple drum solo, but that's Ringo.
Yeah.
It's not especially complicated. But then it's like all three of them, John, Paul, and George, are each playing the guitar, and they're playing like these little mini solos where they're kind of passing around. Like Ringo's got the backing track, and then it goes from one to the other, and they each are playing their solo in kind of their own style. So like John's is a lot more like crunchy and heavy, and it's at the very end of Abbey Road. It's in the Abbey Road medley at the end, and it's a really nice end to that. It's always been something that's been really impressive to me. Hendrix, I mean, most of his stuff I find incredibly moving, and I like Hendrix's solos quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't listen to a lot of music that right now, anyway, at this point in my life, I don't listen to a lot of music that has like artful solos. A lot of the stuff is like, listening to a lot of Johnny Cash and Frank Sinatra and a lot of punk music. Like, you don't find a lot of like well-crafted solos in Black Flag, or Agent Orange or anything like that.
And it's kind of classic rock and below type of
classic
stuff,
rock
right?
and stadium rock.
I guess some of your 80s metal has like good solos and stuff. But like, I guess you start looking at stuff in the 90s, and you weren't seeing as many like intricate solos.
That's when you started to get like grunge and stuff like that. And so, with the exception of Pearl Jam, because they were really kind of arena rock. Everything became stripped down, and everybody just played a couple of chords. Everybody was ripping off Nirvana, and who was ripping off the Pixies, really, in a lot of ways. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I think Nirvana is an amazing band, of course. I like a lot of the more stripped down stuff. I mean, one of the songs I've really been listening to lately doesn't have just like an amazing solo on it, but it just kind of sticks in my head right now is "Icky Thump" by the White Stripes.
Okay,
yeah, and it's got this just weird, dissonant, plucked electric guitar sound where it's just it's kind of all over the place, and I like Jack White a lot.
Everybody jumped directly into my urethra last time. What's the Something Nation Army?
Seven Nation Army.
Seven Nation Army.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking about.
I totally spaced on it too when we were talking about
when you were talking about White Stripes. And I was thinking about how I've watched that video a bunch because that's probably my favorite of their songs. But
it's a great song.
Really listen to them all that much. But I was thinking about there's kind of a solo part in there where it's just. It's kind of the same chords that they play in the chorus, right?
Yeah.
But by themselves, and they're a little fancied up. But it's effective in that song because that has a very kind of thumpy kind of. It's a marching song almost.
Yeah,
you get
absolutely.
Get the military to start marching drills to Seven Nation Army by White Stripes. But you haven't picked nothing from your past or anything that
like big solos
that just stands out to you.
I'm sure there's got to be something like the guitar riff on Layla by Derek and the Dominoes, Clapton. I think that's amazing. But I still love that. But it's so trite because I've heard it a billion times.
But from what I know about you, it sounds like you're more like. What about the stuff that you listen to is more like big bandy, kind of jazzy, Sinatra-esque kind of stuff? Or
I like a lot of that, and then like listen to a lot of '90s rock too.
Which isn't as big with that stuff.
Listen to a lot of '90s rock. Like my Spotify list is like there's some Sinatra and Dean Martin on there. Then there's like a bunch of punk songs, a bunch of '90s songs. You know? There's the Yeah Yeah Yeahs and Weezer and Public Enemy and Elvis.
I'm thinking about a lot of those '90s bands, and it sounds like I'm trying to think. And I'm sure I'm missing some stuff, but I'm just thinking of like Nirvana, like Weezer and stuff. And my brain is telling me that when they did a solo in those, they tended to just be kind of the same melody, just dressed up a little, like
exactly
like the Seven Nation Army thing. That it wasn't really like going off and having like this little part with the guitar noodling. It was just a break. It's almost like having a solo because you're supposed to have a solo in a song.
Yeah.
So, all right. You know what? I have one more email here, Jason. This one's funny.
Oh, boy.
I got this on my mail at rageselect.com today. Miss Ann Mambo says, "Dearest one, I greet you in names of our Lord. However, let me give you a brief introduction myself. My name is Miss Ann Mambo, the only surviving daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Mambo Farouk. He deposited $6.50 in a security company. I will give more details concerning me and the transaction. Best regards, Miss Ann Mambo.
Oh, Miss Ann, I am sorry about your family passing away. Good luck in getting your $6.50.
Right.
Please let us know how we can help.
Right.
Would you like a Loco Steve t-shirt, Miss Ann Mambo?
Do we need to send you a bonded courier check for all the money in the Rage Select bank account so that you can pay the taxes to unlock the $6.50?
Oh,
You know.
yeah, it's probably a lot of big taxes.
Yep.
And I greet you in the name of our Lord, question mark. It's like, Dongacles?
Which Lord? Wait, does she know?
We need to write her back. Hail, Dongacles! How can we help you get this $6.50? Do you accept pesos?
Oh, I'm afraid that we can mail you one Crunchwrap Supreme breakfast taco from Taco Bell.
Yes.
That is the only
Please
thing.
tell us where we can send you this taco.
All right, folks. Well, that's our show for this week. As I said before, Sunday's a good day to send in your questions. We've got all kinds of stuff coming up. And, I think I'm going to say mail@rageselect.com is the email address if you want to send us your questions. It's mail@rageselect.com. There should be a link down below. And with that, we'll see you next week.